This is Rav Natan. I've been asked to put together a webinar about Pesach, about Passover. I want to just give you a little bit of a taste of what we're going to be learning. But before I do, I want to explain why I'm doing this video outside. I'm going to turn the camera around and you'll see where I'm standing. I'm standing in the Judean hills of the promised land of Israel. This is where I live. Our journey started a long time ago with Abraham. But a major part of that story is fast forwarded to our exile in Egypt, to our slavery in Egypt, which in fact Abraham saw in a vision, right? In this promised land, he saw a vision that your offspring will be strangers in a strange land for 400 years. Well, we're there for 210, according to most calculations. And that's what Pesach is about. That's what Passover is about. You know, it says, which means in every generation, every person needs to see themselves as though they left Egypt. Now, there are two major reasons behind this. Number one, if we don't relive history, then we don't appreciate where we are today. The second reason is like this. The word Mitzrayim, which means Egypt, in Hebrew comes from the word Meitzarim. Meitzarim are boundaries, things that oppress you and stop you from moving forward. So it's this time in Passover that we stop and we sit around the table and we are honest with ourselves and with our family and with our Father in heaven and say, what are those things, what are those boundaries that are stopping me? What is the Egypt that is stopping me from moving forward in my life? And we relive the story from Abraham all the way to Lavan, where Yaakov had to run away from Esav, because we say the whole story actually started there. And then going down to Egypt, we lived through the 10 plagues. And in fact, there are many families, including mine, that start the Pesach Seder, the festival, with the children dressed up as slaves in Egypt, walking around with matzah, unleavened bread, on their back like they're slaves. And then we start a conversation with our children. How does it feel to be a slave? How does it feel to be under someone else's rule, rather than you deciding what you want to do and what you can do in life? That's really what our Pesach Seder is about, is relating to it on a deeper level for ourselves. You know, the reason we eat matzah, the unleavened bread, is because we didn't have enough time. God said, guys, taking you out at midnight, we ran with our dough, and that's what it turned into. It didn't have time to rise. But a deeper understanding of that matzah is like this. Leavened bread, when it rises, signifies ego, ga'ava in Hebrew. It signifies an ego because it's all puffed up, right? But as slaves, we weren't puffed up. We had no ego. So that's why we eat matzah. Why? Because, and I've said this before in other webinars, it's an incredible thing. Moses doesn't come to Pharaoh and say, hey, please let my people go so that we can be free. He says, let my people go so we can serve our God. So in other words, we went from slaves of Pharaoh, of Egypt, to slaves of God. So how does that make any sense? How does that make any sense? And we'll get to some deep understandings of that in the webinar. But just one of the ideas is like this. Because when someone is serving something, if that you are serving brings you down, makes you less of a person, then that's no good. That's what slavery in Egypt is about. It's about creating boundaries, pushing you down, making sure that you cannot be who you can be, that you cannot realize the character traits and the gifts that God gives you. But if you serve something that makes you greater, that rises you up as a person, but it's not personal ego, it's not like the bread that puffs itself up. But we are happy to eat that unleavened bread. We are happy to eat that slave mentality bread. Why? Because we are so glad to serve our Father in heaven. We are so glad to serve God because He doesn't push us down. He rises us up. He doesn't suppress us. He gives us great character traits and gifts in order to inspire the world and become better people. Sign up now for the webinar. It's going to be one very intense webinar, all about Pesach, all about Passover. I just gave you a short snippet, 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes, a short snippet of what we're going to get there. So sign up now, because there's only limited spaces and limited time to sign up. I hope to see you there. God bless you all.